Hi, 5th grade. I'm back again with another PotterWookie video. This is going to be chapter 2, and this chapter is called Sticky First Step. So here is the cover, and let's get started. It felt pretty good. It's about heading in the library with Harry. After all, libraries are famous for helping people. As soon as we got to the library, I checked out the first volume of Harry Potter. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It was harder to choose a Star Wars book because there were so many. So I picked the one based on my favorite movie, Book 4, A New Hope. My plan was to read about Harry's different personalities, to really get to know this creature. I had seen the Harry Potter and Star Wars movies, but I had never read any of the books. I found an empty table by the bathrooms and started to read. I was actually enjoying myself when I looked over and noticed that Harry had crawled out of my backpack. He had also pulled a book off of one of the shelves and eaten part of it. The art of skipping, and you see all the little bite marks. I pushed Harry down into the backpack just as a librarian appeared out of nowhere. She saw the book chewed up and screamed, "The horror!" I wanted to tell her that Harry ate the book, but I didn't want to freak her out, so I took the blame. Sorry, I haven't had any dinner. For some reason, the librarian was still freaked out. She agreed to let me off the hook if I paid an $8 fine. I looked in my pockets. Doesn't look like he's got any money in those pockets. I didn't have anywhere near that much money, so the librarian made me shelve books to work off my debts. It wouldn't have been too bad, except Harry smelled and people kept looking at me like I was the stinky one. So he's trying to hide Harry behind him. While I was shelving a bunch of books about senior citizen vampires, I ran into my friend Jack. I'll be honest, I never thought I'd see him at the library. Of course, before Walkenstein, I never thought I'd see me at the library. Jack didn't look too happy about being spotted. He started rapidly making excuses for being there. "I'm here to look at car magazines. My mom made me come. I wanted to make fun of people. I thought this was the skate park. I must be sleepwalking again. I need to use computers to play solitaire. Where am I?" So I think this kid's trying to be cool and pretend that he's not at the library just to check out books. None of his excuses explain the books he was holding. Thomas, the high school years, and how to guess people's favorite numbers. I didn't care why he was there. I was just glad to have someone to help me. I stood up and begged him nicely to stay and assist me while I worked off my fine. "I'll help you work, but only if you show me what's in your backpack." "There's nothing in my backpack." "Then why is it wiggling and speaking Latin?" "Pluribus unum." So I think this guy here is PotterWookie in his backpack. I unzipped the top of my backpack and let Jack take a quick peek. He was pretty pleased to see that my closet had cooked up something new. He wanted me to take Harry out so he could hold him, but there was no way I was going to do that in the library. So Jack offered to help me shelve books if I promised he could see Harry when we were done. After half an hour, we got a little bored working, so we started to straighten the books in a more creative way. It was sort of fun. Then a man wearing a hat and really short sleeves told on us and ruined the whole thing. "There's children doing something wrong over here. Arrest them!" And you could see the way that they arranged books was actually they made it into like a little house. Nobody arrested us, but the librarian made us go. As we were leaving, we walked past the community bulletin board near the exit. It was covered with announcements and ads from all sorts of local people and events. A poster in the lower right-hand corner caught my eye. I couldn't believe it. Average Chef was one of my favorite shows on TV. It was hosted by a guy named Chad Average. And you can see on this community bulletin board there is a ton of these little posters. Chad takes two teams of people and makes them race against each other to cook things, using only 8 average ingredients. One of those 8 ingredients is chosen to be the focus of the meal, and the contestants have to make things that go along with it. The goal is to make the average food as interesting as possible. I once saw a man and his daughter make fish sticks out of pinto beans and dried macaroni. They also made sesame seed tartare sauce. Now, Average Chef was coming to my town for tryouts. I had problems, but I thought about it. If I made it to Average Chef and won the competition, Janae and girls might adore me. And I felt pretty confident that my problems would be less painful if I was adored. I called it marshmallow burger with a side of flaming pickles. "We adore you." So he thinks that if he's a good chef, all these girls will start to like him. We'll see if that actually happens. When Jack and I finally got out of the library, Wilt Johnson was sitting on my bike and cracking his knuckles. What's that smell? So other people are starting to notice PotterWookie too. I thought about running away, but he was on my bike. Besides, even if I ran, Wilt would find me. He was a bully who thrived on bothering anyone smaller than him. And since he was so huge, there weren't many people he didn't bother. Once when I was digging a hole in the vacant lot with my friends, Wilt came by and pushed us all in just so that he could, as he put it, see how many doofuses it takes to fill a hole. Looks like 5. Wilt loved to ride around the neighborhood on bikes he had borrowed and throw things at people. Now Wilt had my bike. The truth is, I was willing to walk the rest of my life if it meant he would take the bike and just leave me alone. Wilt told us to come closer, and like dumb robots, we mindlessly walked up to him. Yes, master, we're coming. So that's them being silly and just going up to this bully. Wilt informed me that he would be borrowing my bike for a while. I wanted to protest, but my urge to stay alive kept me quiet as he sat there resting his big rear on my seat. There was no way I was going to let Wilt just take my bike. I stood up, tall, and looked him in the neck. I think I'll borrow your bike. Sounds good. So it doesn't look like he's standing up to him at all. Thanks to my bravery, Wilt rode off on my bike, and I was forced to walk home. Jack had a skateboard, and he decided to tag along with me. He was annoying as usual, and he kept begging me to let him see Harry. We cut across a large field, and when we got to the middle, I set my backpack down and took Harry out. The little PotterWookie stretched and growled, and then began to walk around. He walks funny. He might be dancing? Well, then he dances funny. Hey, look at him. He's so cute. Harry moved in an odd fashion. He took long steps and his arms swung from side to side. He was so interesting to watch that Jack and I both temporarily forgot about the owls. Okay, here's the deal. The city of Temin, where we live, has a secret. We have an owl problem. Well, I guess it's not a secret, but it's definitely not something you'll ever see printed in our tourist brochure. Hundreds of screaming owls live in caves on the outskirts of town, and they eat mice and small animals. There are always stories in the paper about some huge owl picking up a tiny dog or a cat and carrying it off. My mom never used to let Tuffin play outside because she thought he might get taken away by birds. Then he kept interrupting her quiet time, so she changed her mind. Did you like my song? Maybe you should go play outside. And Tuffin, remember, is the little brother. I never worry about owls picking up Tuffin because he's too big. I also don't worry about them getting our dog Puck because he is too fat. And so there's Puck the dog. But now, as Harry was dancing around the field, an owl spotted him and swooped down. Jack and I screamed like those frightened women in scary movies. The owl yelled back, and all of our screaming created a sort of sonic boom of fear. And then you can see we have the owl, the boy screaming, and then there's PotterWookie down here saying Expecto Greedo Vader. So he's just mixing up Harry Potter words and Star Wars words. The owl backpedaled in the air and took off in the other direction. Harry waved his wand, yelled something, and then fell to the ground as if in a trance. I grabbed the little PotterWookie and ran home as fast as I could. Jack wanted to stay and brush Harry's hair, but I made him go. I was mad about Wilt taking my bike and having to walk home, but the worst part was that Harry was so scared he wouldn't talk or even move. I could feel my problems multiplying. I needed to tell my parents about Wilt taking my bike. I needed to tell them about Harry and what was happening. Instead, I only told them the most important thing. An average chef is coming to town. Is that the show about gymnast cooks? No, that's Agile Chef. This is the one where normal people cook. So he came home, has all these problems, but he just tells his parents about Average Chef coming into town. My dad started talking about how educational Average Chef was while my mom sniffed the air. A person can learn valuable life skills from cooking. Do you smell something? I wonder what she thinks she's smelling. I went into my room, laid Harry on my bed, and took a shower. After my shower, I changed into my pajamas. I always wore one of my dad's old concert t-shirts to bed. He had tons of them, and they were really comfortable. I then sat down on my beanbag and started reading. It seemed like the next best step to understand why Harry was here. And that is the end of chapter 2. So, check back for the next video for chapter 3, Friends, and then make sure you answer the questions in the Google Doc for chapter 2. Bye!